Welcome to Heart, our chat with the cast and crew of When Calls the Heart. I'm Annette from South Carolina, and I have a couple of the Facebook admins with me today.
Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm from Massachusetts.
And I'm Marg, and I'm from California.
We welcome the writer of last night's episode and our brilliant showrunner, John Tinker.
Oh, thank you. Yay. Coming live from my wife's mama's house, where she says the buttermilk's colder and the internet's faster.
Yep.
Well, let's get right into it. Madison Lee from Saskatchewan, Canada, captured the mood of the Hearties last night very well. She writes, I want to thank the writers for the nod to the Christmas special with the Christmas tree and the carol. It actually made me cry happy tears. She loved the whole episode, but that was extra special. And she wonders, is that your favorite part, John, or was there a different moment that stands out for you?
Well, the tree, we thought, we haven't been able to do the Christmas movie for 2 years for various and sundry reasons. And we just thought this was a way to sneak it in and really was a gift from us to you. The only thing we would have wished for is it was just teeming rain that day. As you can see, it's gray and everyone's standing out there in a small break in the squall, but boy, was it raining. And Peter DeLuise and the cast and the crew really worked hard and worked around all of that inclemency to get those shots. But we hope you enjoyed it. And I guess my favorite part was when Bill looked through the window and said April Fools, and he might as well, of course, have said Merry Christmas. That was Bill's gift to the town.
Yeah, that was darling. Yeah, I saw Rhonda posted this morning, your wife posted on Facebook, this was her all-time favorite episode.
I saw that. I was
Do you know why?
No.
Okay.
She doesn't say anything during the episode. She's not even knitting. Mark, she's no longer knitting. She doesn't speak during the episode. So I don't know what she's thinking.
There's some serious knitting going on, but she's knitting some compliments today. So that's good.
That was, thank you.
Episode without talking about Hyland Goodrich. Now, that little hungry boy stole the show. Could you talk a little bit about Hyland and his character Jack and the family that we're starting to see develop? We saw the picture with Elizabeth and Lucas and little Jack, and we know from the previews coming up for the episode that Jack is going to be a part of Elizabeth's birthday celebration with Lucas. So we'd love to hear a little bit more of what we're seeing starting to take shape.
Well, it depends on the child, I suppose, but the twins were a little young and Hyland is a little bit older. And so unfortunately with the twins, they became disinterested and disenchanted, I suppose, with showbiz just before we really could have worked with them. But Hyland was right there. So there's really very little you can't do with Hyland, where he'll either step up to the line or go right over it of his own accord. He's really something else. And so as a youngster, as a child who's really able to be directed in some fashion, and that's through Peter's and other directors' magic, he's just able to light up the screen. The problem, the danger, not the problem, but the danger is overwriting and giving them more than he can do. But so far, we've been either cognizant of that or he's been able to do anything we've asked. So I think he speaks for himself. We just love him.
Well, we all love him.
His parents in the interview, I think it's being released today, said that they're really careful not to over rehearse with him so that they're, which is great. So it brings some freshness. And I think parties will see in the interview that we did with him, which was totally during the witching hour. And it was not in person, it's on Zoom with all these little boxes in front of him. Peter, overcomes a lot of things to be able to bring stuff out of him. And it was, you'll really see that in the interview and the process.
Well, it's Peter and Hyland. It's child to child.
No, Indeed, that is what they said.
That comes
Yeah.
through.
You know,
Yes.
I suppose I suppose it remains to be seen whether, firstly, he sticks with acting and where he goes. But there are just some kids who come along, and I suppose the one I've worked with, who was just remarkable, was a young lady named Mae Whitman. She had been in a movie called Hope Floats and a number of other things. And when we did Chicago Hope, she played Christine Lottie's daughter. And of course, she's gone on to continue to have an incredible career, but without impugning parents or other people who might have affected May and other kids, it's important for them not to over rehearse them. The kids will either come to it with a natural ability, or they'll begin to mimic and puppet what they've been told, and often it's, or what they've been directed. And that actually is really the magic, as I said, of what Peter does and other directors, is not to give them the line readings, not to tell them what to do, but to give them enough direction so that they can infuse that line or those actions with their own character. And again, Hyland just is sort of a natural, so we're gifted.
And then do you want to add anything about this little family that seems to be solidifying?
It does seem to be a little family. Wouldn't it be a shame if they all never got together?
Really would.
Artists think so, yeah.
Is that an answer?
Well, it's. I don't want to give anything away.
Okay, all right.
So far, Lucas seems to be, talk about a natural. He seems to be pretty natural when it comes to step parenting, a very difficult job. And they seem to blend rather well.
On to the other Jack who stole the show, the real life Jack Wagner. His character, Bill Avery, probably was everything we love about Bill Avery last night, from the comedy with a little bit too much cough syrup, and then to just see him peering through those blinds, you just saw the soft squishiness that really is inside him that he tries to hide from someone. But Hearties are a little worried. Heather Lawless Kaiser from South Carolina wants to know if Bill Avery is going to be okay. They're very concerned.
Well, I think there's good reason to be concerned, but we are not going to off that beloved character. We just won't. He may be put through some paces, but that's just, we don't want to do that. He's as I said, he's too beloved. And Jack Wagner is a lot of fun to work with. I often get calls, and the other writers often get calls from Jack, and he just does a little spin, whether it's taking out a few lines he feels he can make work just with an expression or an inflection, or he's very cognizant that the comedy and the warmth and the snarkiness all play at different times.
Yes.
And he's a professional, as the saying goes. So there's very little that he ever needs directing about. He's really something. And it's a character that, for me, always catches you by surprise and makes you laugh when you don't think you will. And he does a couple of things in next week's episodes. They're just throwaway moments, and I love those things. Even the April Fool's moment, as I said, there are a number of ways you could have read the line April Fools, and it's just, as I said, he might as well have been saying Merry Christmas. And he knows how to do it. He knows how to make that character come alive.
Well, I think it was written very well for his character too. I mean, those, we got a little call back to his ex-wife. I mean, it was, the delusions that come with strong cough medicine. So
And he's a sport. He's a really good sport and very protective of the character, and as he should be.
All right, staying with Bill Avery for a moment. Hearties are having a little bit of confusion about titles. So
yeah, and I guess that's our fault, and I don't mean it to be the case. We don't mean it to be the case. He is still a forensic inspector, and someone pointed out in the crowd scene on the first installment of the Hope Valley Days, I think a line was clipped. And they thought Nathan, in fact, had said forensic inspector. And I did catch that when I watched the show, but it wasn't meant to be that. Bill is a forensic inspector. He had to turn in his uniform last season as a matter of course that he was, and it was representative of a certain part of his life that was past.
Right.
And how would he therefore move on? And would he be the same man? Would he be the same Mountie? So that's what that represented. But he is still a part of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Okay.
I guess at that point it would be the Northwest Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Cool. Okay, good. Because I didn't think he seemed to be, I thought he just retired the uniform, but that he had.
That's exactly right. And
Okay. Okay.
apologies for the confusion, but he is still very much a forensic inspector and a judge.
We have straightened
he
it
is.
all
And a
out.
cook, though he hasn't been doing much cooking this year.
Right. We need to get him back in the kitchen too. Awesome. Although I don't know, with smoked paprika or not, one of the two. Or what was the really bad thing he made that year that nobody wanted to eat?
Oh, yeah.
Aunt Ozell's chili.
And
Oh, the chili and the
Chili,
eggnog.
yes.
Also, the eggnog was a
made
problem.
did that get people sick? Was that a previous season? Was that 7?
No, I don't.
There was a question as to whether the food at the establishment
yes.
was making people sick.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right.
definitely. Okay. So let's just say for a moment that we get a renewal for season 10.
Let's
11,
say it
12,
louder.
11, 12, 13. I don't know. Why not just do a bunch?
I love it. I'm all
I
for
think that would be great. Anyway, Anne Kavanagh of Peterborough, Ontario, wants to know if the writers envision that Mei Sou will stay in Hope Valley, and then I have subsequent questions. What do you make of this hug with Nathan and Allie dragging her into that family photo? So, is she staying, and what's happening with her?
Well, the first thing, I guess the general note is stay tuned for
Okay.
developments. But whether or not she's with Nathan, we would love her to stay. I think she brings a wonderful dimension.
Yeah.
And a new character, obviously, to the show, to the town. And I'd be giving things away if I said she did or didn't get together with Nathan. But I do think, as far as Allie pulling her into the photo, I think that speaks of Allie's desire for her father to get married. And as he said last night in the episode, she wants a brother. Married. I think she wants a brother. I think she wants to get married. And then he read that little thing about love off the door. So that's
Yeah, he
really what and it also for me speaks to Allie's. I didn't view, I don't personally anyway view that as a sort of pathetic, oh, I want my dad. I think she's just I think Allie's a welcoming person. She's very warm and she likes people, and she has a special relationship with Allie, with Mei, and I can tell you, she will continue to have a very special relationship with Mei. So we'd like her to stick around.
Yeah, and I think that Soda Fountain Pharmacy is such a great set. It really has a lot of flexibility for you all for the mini seasons yet to come. Another little thing that struck me last night was we saw Robert squirting everybody with the seltzer, and then of course we had that strategic fire hose moment with
talk about stuff left on the cutting room floor. First of all, Elizabeth Pechlander, a hard name to say, Pechlander, she edited last night's episodes, the block, in fact, and I thought she did a fantastic job. And that stuff, there was an actual scene with the kids and the fire, and what we did was to kind of edit it, and we wrote a voiceover, and she was extremely instrumental in that. I thought she did a great job, and I liked that little sort of recap up top with
did
that.
too. I really liked that little editing at the beginning. And it's funny, we were talking to Allie because I think a lot of Hearties are attached to Elizabeth's journal writing, and they miss that kind of opening scene. And what she explained was, of course we still get the journal writing.
Right.
It's just, we're not seeing, you're trying to edit it. It becomes a voiceover essentially. So
Right.
It still bookends the show in many cases, but it's with careful editing, you get to see so much more. And I thought that was a great example.
Yeah, her husband, Elizabeth Pechlander's husband, Charles Robichaud, is our other editor, and they happen to be husband and wife, and they happen to be incredible editors, and each has a slightly different style without being outside what is natural for this show. So will you be speaking to them? Will you have chance to speak?
They haven't reached out, but I think
I'm going to
we'd
reach
love
out to them again because they're interesting people, and the editing is this, another place for us all to get in there and retell the story or reshape the story. So
Well, we just, we continue to learn so much, and that editing piece of it would be really fun to learn more about. But in any case, I think the story was told, it set the tone for where the relationship was between Mayor Hickam and Lee.
It worked out well.
Yeah.
I was thankful that stuff just didn't hit the floor and we got to use it.
Yeah.
Thanks to Elizabeth.
Yes, they were beautiful scenes. Well, we have another question about Mei Sou. Julie Davis Williams from North Carolina asks if we have seen the last of Jeffrey. We sure hope so.
Yes, he was a rather unredemptive character. Even with May saying, there was a time I worked for him and he was a very different person. It was tough to find anything redeeming about that gentleman. So yes, he's gone. He's gone. No reflection on the actor, just the character.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
All right, we have a question for one of our admins. Christy Miller from Michigan wants to know, does Gustav really play the accordion?
No, but when those first drafts came out, we had Gustav playing in just about every scene, and we really had to trim it back. But we liked it, and he faked it pretty darn well. I thought he
did.
no, and John Serrata, with whom we'll be speaking Thursday, John did all of that.
I think the Europeans find the accordion very romantic. It's not a concept that we necessarily get. I don't think we think of the accordion in that way.
That we hear the accordion usually.
Right. Yeah.
These last two episodes, not to get into Thursday's episode when we talked to John, but there were a lot of opportunities for him to do nuanced music when it came to Romeo and Juliet or
he caught that
Antony and
definitely.
Cleopatra and things like that. I just thought it was a lot of fun. He's really good, really good.
Not to mention the Christmas Carol. My goodness, that was gorgeous.
Oh, good. We're so glad that you all liked it. It was we so wanted to, and for a lot of reasons we haven't been able to do a Christmas episode, but we just thought that was a what do they call it? A lagniappe, a freebie, a little gift. So
so let's talk a little bit about Henry and Fiona. They're out of town right now. Can you remind us where they are and what's going on? Because we know that they're probably going to play a big role in everything that's unfolding right now with the mine and with Spurlock and with Wyman Walden and all kinds of things that are coming.
Yes, they are. This is one of those practicalities, practical matters that arises. Henry Gowan is in San Francisco and Kayla Wallace is off doing a movie. She was gone for 2 episodes. I think she was gone in 7 and was she gone for 7 and 8 or 8? And she comes back in 9. So she will be back for the remainder of the season. As will Henry. Yes, they are both off and very involved, trying off camera to settle things down, to find out what's afoot with Jerome Smith and the rest of these folks. I can tell you that story will begin to wrap up rather quickly. Even more quickly, the Wyman Walden story will really wrap up next week. So there's a lot that's going to happen. And, again, when it comes to writing the show, there are dangers of opening stories that take longer runway to land your plane once you've taken off than you might think. And so we were running out of runway toward the end of the season, and we wanted to really focus on our main characters. And not that we certainly didn't want to shoo off the actors or their characters quickly, but there were some stories that we felt we needed to resolve with some alacrity. So we do that in the next few episodes and really focus on our folks. And there's some really fun stuff that comes up at the end of the season, lots of which was really sort of designed from the very beginning of season 9 when we got into the writer's room. which was right about this time last year.
Ah.
So I hope we get that call soon.
Yeah, get off that porch and get writing. Let's go,
That's right.
Hallmark. Let's go, Hallmark.
Vancouver.
Love it. But we did see in the previews that Henry's a little bit missing in action, right?
He is a little missing in action.
Okay.
And there's a little surprise that I don't want to spoil. A little surprise when he comes back. He's not pregnant. Don't everyone get excited. Don't jump to conclusions.
Okay.
I miss him. The truth is I miss it. There are so many characters and I really do. We do love them all. And I just speak for myself. I just miss certain characters when they're not there.
Well, obviously, so do Hearties because we hear about it, right?
Anytime somebody leaves town, you immediately start hearing what's going on. Are they coming back? When are they coming back?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because some characters in the past seem to have fallen into what the Hearties call the black hole? Do you think there's a trepidation?
That could have a bit to do with it. They're always concerned that a leave might mean that it's permanent, and they don't want to see that happen because they love everybody, and we love everybody.
Well, again, to speak of practicalities, Clara and Jesse, we haven't talked much in the writers' room, so I'll only speak for myself, but I'd love to see them come back. I really would. And that's, we don't want to, as with Bill Avery or any other, I don't like killing characters, at least myself. Let them go off and hopefully they can come back if they want. Daniel listening can't come back. Sorry.
That is true.
Okay, thanks for making that clear. We love Dan, but Jack
I do too, and I
has
never worked
passed
with
on. Jack has passed on. There was a body
That's
in
right.
the casket.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
I'm
forensic
not
investigator
making
sure.
light of that. I really am not. I know
No, we're
that
not.
I've heard the stories before I got there. That was not an easy decision for Daniel or Aaron or Hallmark or Peter DeLuise, it was just tough on everyone. And I get it. That's really tough.
Yes, no. And obviously we love that you continue to sort of honor Jack's memory because we still, of course, feel
And we
that
do
way.
wanna do that. That's right.
There's
Yeah.
still so much of him in the show through little Jack
Yeah.
and through Elizabeth that it's nice to have those little touches of remembrance for him.
Yes. His portrait right there in her home.
Yeah.
Mm,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, and the plaque in the school, all of that. Yeah. Okay, so we know that this, barring Bill Avery showing up pregnant, we do know that this is.
Oh, you mean Henry Gowan? But Bill could show up.
I'm
pregnant.
sorry, forgive me.
Okay.
That's right.
Now I'm really
That's
creating
right.
rumors.
I was on that stagecoach with you for a minute.
They
One
both
of
show up
those
pregnant.
episodes.
Okay. We know that this is an idealized town and that it doesn't hew strictly to the mores of the time. And in that case, Elizabeth and Lucas would not face shame for having that adorable epic kiss in the saloon. And likewise, we have very strong women leaders, as we do men in this town. But I think some Hearties are a bit disconcerted that Lee is working for Rosemary this year. And I wonder if you could tell us why that was important to the story.
Do you don't want to address the kiss? I suppose.
Oh, I just slipped that in there in hopes that you would address all of it.
You mean the kiss at the top of the show when she says, "Oh, what the heck?"
Oh, what the
Oh,
heck? Everyone,
yeah.
yeah, that was a favorite line too of the night. Oh, what the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of kissing between the two of them, and I think it's clear that they really are attracted to one another. Erin has this thing that she does that I really I think is so smart. She will, for instance, after she kissed him, she kind of giggled that kind of, "Oh, aren't I naughty?" And she really takes any heat off of it.
Yes.
In terms of something that's verboten. So I love that about her.
That was great.
As you know, it's so funny, and forgive me, I didn't. While Lee is in fact working under Rosemary, I don't know if that's pejorative that it's being regarded that way. I don't mean it that way.
I think they like to see him as sort of the titan of the lumber mill, and they're missing, I think the bottom line is they're missing
Ah,
me being strong
well,
and
this is in part why the Hearties are so important, that they give us feedback like this. Well, that's interesting. We need to take that into account. Can't do anything about it this season, but yeah, he's let things go at the lumberyard. He's let it all fall into Joseph's capable hands, and he's really sort of just tried to wrestle his talents into submission, and he obviously had trouble with that, and then through help of Rosemary and his own sensitivity as a friend, he came to terms with that, or at least is coming to terms with that. You know, I don't know. We'll have to discuss this in the room next season. Should there be, and I'm not being coy, we haven't heard a word, but should there be another season, and I would hope there is, I don't know if he'll stay there. It's important for the character to get to the point of your question. I just felt it was, when we talked about it, we didn't want to do stories necessarily. We wanted to make it about Lee, and where could Lee find some new growth. And what would be interesting, I think, is to take that new awareness of Lee's, that new growth, and move him perhaps, and again, that this will all be discussion in the writers' room, into a different area. Maybe she just continues to run the paper with other folks. I don't know. But that, I appreciate that perspective, and about Lee being the titan at the lumber mill, and we'll certainly keep that in mind.
well, I think the reality is, had he been elected mayor, he would have stepped away from the lumber mill quite a bit too, because
Right.
the activities would have taken him there.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily, I see him working with, not for, I mean, I think Rosemary created an opportunity for him to be there, and she definitely is in the lead. I mean, she's editing his work, etc. But I think what you do so beautifully is model marriages in which there are these equal partners with strengths, and like any marriage or any relationship, there are times when somebody has to be 70% and somebody's 30%, because you have different gifts and you have different times and things that you go through, and it's really beautiful when you do
My wife tells me she has 100% all the time. Rhonda says it's 100% all the time.
Well, some of us are 150 most of the time, and so we just scale back to 100.
Would that we all had the Coulter's marriage, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's interesting. It's fun. Part of the fun of being a writer is to explore those things. And Beth will do something different than Derek, and Derek than Allie, and it's fun, and to see people's takes on things. So, but that the point is not overlooked here, and let us think about that about Lee too. But toward your point about him being mayor, we had talked a few weeks ago about him not, our choice for not making him mayor, because we didn't feel necessarily that he would grow in that position.
Yes.
And we liked him being this, so he may stay, but then again, you Hearties have given us something to think about.
We loved seeing that Anna's going to get to stay and that she's going to live upstairs.
Boy, we actually have a plan for that. There's which it's so interesting.
Excited to hear.
Hearties are so in tune, often so in tune, not always, but often so in tune with what's going to happen. Hopefully that doesn't talk of bad storytelling on our part. But and yet on this one with Anna, I've seen some speculation and they're all off, which is fun. And we do have a plan for her. So should we go 10? That'll unfold.
Oh my goodness.
But smarty Hearties. Hearty
Always
Smarties.
thinking, always plotting.
Hearty Smarties.
And looking at it from every possible angle.
Analyzing everything, every possible
Oh,
detail.
that's great.
Yeah. But it did feel, between that and of course, we're seeing Elizabeth helping these homeschool moms that are in some distant location, and, Joseph working on the bookmobile. And then you brought up the concept of mitzvahs with the Hanukkah theme and Ned Yost. I just wondered, Hope Valley is such a place of mitzvahs, but tell us why you wanted to introduce that concept.
there were a lot of things that were just sort of not aphorisms for aphorism's sake, but just things to think about don't look at someone and judge them. Just try and see them as someone God uniquely created to be themselves, and help them if they seem to need that help. And the other thing is, light in the darkness, and try and help. They were just,
Thanksgiving and
we weren't just trying to drop pennies along the way, but it's nice every now and again to be reminded of that. And we remind ourselves as much as we might be reminding some people in the audience or not. It was not meant nearly so directly as some of the criticism Elizabeth received on her book. Some of those things about criticism, fine, just make it personal. But I don't know, it felt like two of those episodes where some of those things might fit in the spirit of love and giving and Thanksgiving. They just felt like the right thing. And the other thing, again, talking about running out of runway, we just wanted to expand that story, Marg, in all candor, and we couldn't. So we had to pick and choose. But we did like what it did for Ned's character and what he was telling the children. And writers try and never throw anything away, if only because they're lazy. But those things hopefully will come back. Either a child will remember it, or they'll come to Ned and talk about them later, and we will use them again. So it's all history you build upon.
Do we imagine that that Ned and Florence are a mixed faith couple? Is she Christian and he's Jewish?
I think, well, he's certainly
to-
Jewish. I don't know if she has a faith. I guess she would be a Christian. I don't know, but it's interesting. I was thinking about the two of them, and again, we don't write things hopefully, thoughtlessly. But if you'll notice, you go back, she's used some words that they're not Yiddish, and they're not Old Testament words, but she's talked about people being stiff-necked, and some words that are often in the Old Testament, and we attribute that to just being around and listening to Ned speak. So their faiths, if they are in fact distinct, are informing each other, even if just linguistically.
Yes.
Language.
Well, clearly there's some respect for, Ned was comfortable being in the chapel, and
yeah, there's huge respect, and there are times when I could just go off and be with the Yosts, and I think, what do they like at home? And then I think, wait a minute, where do they live?
well, yeah, they got to get that first.
I wish we could go
Everybody
home.
wonders.
We really do. All the writers, we wish we could go home with them. We don't have any place for them to live when it comes to scenes, scenically.
Well, I think you've given us a lot to think about. I want to go back and sort of tie those moments together between the Thanksgiving and the, made in the image of God and those kinds of things, and the mitzvahs. I think there were a lot of little beautiful pearls in those Hope Valley days.
Good. Well, we just felt they were sort of not gifts from us to the audience by any stretch. Just lovely things to think about and to ponder. All of us, and especially the writers. They're important things to slow down and think about. So, thank you.
Well, speaking of Elizabeth, as we did a moment ago, we're really excited to see she's got a birthday coming up.
Yes, she
But
does.
we're also a little fearful because there's a lot of turbulence ahead. And is this just one little tiny bright spot? Wyman Walden is back, and he has designs on the saloon. And what can you tell us about this upcoming episode?
Annette, don't you want to wait?
No.
As things are wont to work out in Hope Valley, Luca's going to make sure she has a darn good birthday, and that Wyman Walden doesn't blow out the candles on her cake before she has chance to.
Oh, goodness.
Good.
So yeah. It got a little, tricky writing these things because we had to, kind of separate them, and it's a small town. So things that are going on, like Wyman Walden coming in demanding to buy the saloon and trying to blackmail Lucas affects how he plans a birthday party. But
Oh, boy.
next week, Ali Devereaux's script.
Oh, yay.
Very excited for that. So I think it really was Christmas last night, and we're very glad for the gift that you gave us, John. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And as I said, it's a gift to work on the show, but it's a gift because of all of you, of course, which is why we get the chance to do it. So thank you. And it's a gift to work with all of the people and everyone. We get suggestions and are inspired by not only the Hearties, but folks on the cast and the crew. So it really was a joint effort, and that's how holidays are best spent together and enjoying one another. So thank you very much.
Well, we've got a lot more goosebump moments to come in the rest of the season. So please join us every Sunday night, 8:00 on the Hallmark Channel, and we will be there with our nimble fingers on Twitter, always using the hashtag Hearties. And we'll see you next week for Heart to Heart.